when I was working for a company called iFilm, and iFilm was the precursor company to a firm you might know as YouTube. We'd started to see some of the development of marketplaces, and I thought that we could have a similar correlation or a similar evolution from the market research space that we'd seen in the advertising space. We can see that other industries have gone down this path, and there are a lot of benefits to defining an industry, calling it ResTech, and also putting together a landscape of how it is all put together. What does it all mean? So that you can describe the industry to those who are not in it. So that anyone, including our mothers and our friends, can say, well, what are we doing? What does this look like? The big area of innovation that everyone talks about now is around how AI is going to impact our industry. What I tell people is that your job is not at risk because of AI. It's because of someone else who has learned how to use AI better than you. There are certain scenarios where a type of job will change, but the number of roles and types of new jobs also increase.
So do you think the investors and stakeholders would look at the category 2 of the companies? I'm your host, Ankesh Saxena, and I'm thrilled to have you join us in another enlightening episode where we explore the stories and ideas shaping the industry and inspiring innovations. Today, we have an extraordinary guest with us, someone who has revolutionized the way we think about market research and insights, Patrick Comer. Patrick is a visionary CEO of Synth and has been driving force behind the digital transformation of the market research. And that's not it. There's many questions I have for him with this segment. But before that, as a co-creator of the ResTech landscape, which is my second question to him, Patrick has not only pioneered technological advancement, but also empowered businesses to harness the power of real-time insights to make smarter and more faster decisions. In this episode, we will deep dive with Patrick's journey, his leadership philosophy, and how he's leading Synth and the ResTech sector to the new heights. We'll also discuss the opportunities and innovations shaping the future of market research. And trust me, this is one conversation you don't want to miss. But before that, quick reminder, if you enjoy thought-provoking conversations with the industry leaders and innovation, make sure to subscribe to the Collaborative Canvas. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode, and we'll always ensure that the latest insights deliver right to you. And if this episode resonates with you, don't forget to leave a review or share it with someone who would benefit from these insights. And now, without further ado, let's welcome Patrick Comer. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Ankesh, it is a delight to be here and see you again. It's been a few years.
It is. I think the last we met and I saw, the ResTech thing came up. So I prepared those questions around it. But let's start with your journey. How did you come to market research?
While I was reflecting on this question, I actually discovered, as it were, market research when I was working for a company called iFilm in Los Angeles, California in 2003. And iFilm was the precursor company to a firm you might know as YouTube. So both YouTube and iFilm were founded in Los Angeles, YouTube copying a little bit what iFilm was up to. But iFilm had a small subsidiary that was actually supplying market research sample to an online firm called OTX. And that is how I got into the space. And what I discovered quickly when I was starting at that company is that the research space was very similar to the digital advertising space. And in that world, we had started to see some of the development of digital advertising. We'd started to see some of the development of marketplaces. And I thought that we could have a similar correlation or a similar evolution from the market research space that we'd seen in the advertising space. And I think that's part of been my journey over the past 20 some odd years, is looking at other industries and how they're evolving and seeing how market research and ad collection or data collection can follow a similar path.
And I think when we saw the first ResTech landscape, that was pretty evident that, Patrick can see probably like 25 years from the present state of mind.
I don't know if I can see into the future. I often say that the crystal ball is not it's not magic. It's that there are other industries that are moving at a different pace or they're further ahead. and you take the path that they've gone down and say, well, how could we do the same for our industry? So the entire concept of, say, ResTech, research technology, is a correlation to ad tech or advertising technology or MarTech, marketing and technology. And so a good example is a lot of the need for definition of the industry. We can see that other industries have gone down this path. And there are a lot of benefits to defining an industry, calling it ResTech, and also putting together a landscape of how it is all put together. What does it all mean? So that you can describe the industry to those who are not in it. So that anyone, including our mothers and our friends, can say, well, what are we doing? What does this look like? And it provides an opportunity to see it visually.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come back to that opportunity thing, because that's a lot to talk about. And before even we go to the ResTech and research and technology by far, you had a very definite approach towards innovation. And, Synth has been taking the entire market by waves. There's no one which I see as a direct competitor right now. It's been known for the innovative approach. You've been known for that. You've been leading. So what is that you think is now the market? I mean, after 10 years, what you have innovated versus what is actually going? And I was hearing this, podcast of yours with Seema Vas about data groups, and you mentioned many things. And that was, I think, about 10 months ago. And people are actually, inheriting those technologies within themselves, and they're bringing up new things. What do you think where now, as this point of time, the innovation stands?
Well, I think there is still progress being made on what we call programmatic, which is the digital automation of the market research industry. And we're going to continue to see evolution and innovation along that space. What Cent brought to the table was providing programmatic sampling, automatic data collection, via a marketplace and via panels and other types of capabilities that really democratized access to research and allowed a lot of our partners and our customers to build businesses on top of the platform that we'd created. And we continue to innovate on that platform. I mean, a lot of our big projects now are not just being able to provide, say, consumer sample, but really reaching into premium, B2B, healthcare, more nuanced or more harder to reach audiences, or more globally diverse audiences that our customers are more and more thirsty for. But of course, the big area of innovation that everyone talks about now is around how AI is going to impact our industry. What is that going to look like in the short term and medium term? And what are the choices and decisions that business leaders and researchers need to be thinking about of how that's going to impact their work, how it's going to impact insights, and what their customers are starting to ask and understand about the impact of AI on the insights industry.
Yeah, I think I've been hearing more about AI evolution and the technology evolution.
Absolutely.
But somewhere down the line, even after hearing too many conferences and debates into that, I still don't believe that the famous quote that people say that AI would eat up the jobs. That's not happening.
Well, I look at it this way. Years ago, some people would say that online research is going to disrupt research and there's going to be no more Katie or offline roles. And that did not happen.
Yeah.
Actually, the number of jobs in our space increased over time. So as much as automation or technology can provide efficiency, process improvement, it doesn't remove job, it removes the timelines, but increases the opportunity for more work to be done. So I expect the number of roles actually to increase over time. What I tell people is that your job is not at risk because of AI. It's because of someone else who has learned how to use AI better than you. So I ask all of our team members to lean into how can AI not only impact your job, let's say, but your just daily life. If you're not using AI today to understand its potential impact, you might be left behind.
Yeah.
And that's a bigger risk to your job, is being left behind with the AI advances versus it taking your job completely.
I think that's rightly said. We are missing on the skills that we need. And then if we say that, we would be losing the job against AI, then that would be a not so good statement or probably, verdict.
Yeah, well, we see this with many tech advances over time. There are certain scenarios where a type of job will change, but the number of roles and types of new jobs also increase. That kind of destructive creative capitalism that we see time and time again. The internet created a lot of jobs, even though it changed the roles that certain people had.
Yeah. And since we are actually talking about the technology by far, how did this idea of ResTech came up and you co-created with Seema on this? The landscape we understood.
The ResTech concept, well, initially we started to see how, I'll just be very personal with it. When I was the CEO of a company called Lucid, we were constantly engaged with talking with investors, talking with our customers, but also talking with employees. And our job was to explain the industry. And it was often hard to do. What is programmatic sample? What is market research? And I kept seeing that other peers of mine that led other organizations, say in ad tech or martech, had an easier job of explaining, because they literally say, well, this is an ad tech company that does this for ad tech. But no one questioned the ad tech piece.
Yeah.
And we didn't have what is the definition, the shorthand technology leadership within market research. And so we went through this process through a conference in the United States for SampleCon. And we really worked with industry leaders to say, what should be the shorthand for our industry, for the tech leadership, the tech innovation in market research? And we actually took it to a vote at the conference. And ResTech was the winner.
And that was 2022, I guess.
Even earlier than
before,
that. That was
before
like
pre-COVID.
It was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And so we actually said, let's define it. And for me, there are a number of other options for how we could call it, but ResTech was the answer. And so once we had a name, then we started to, now let's define the landscape. What companies are in ResTech? What types of technology advances are we seeing? So that when you describe your company, you can say, I'm a ResTech company, and this is where I fit in the landscape, and this is the innovation that I'm bringing to the table. It makes it a lot easier to explain the industry. It makes it a lot easier to explain it, particularly to new employees. What is this industry? What are we talking about here? But also to investors, it helps them understand that they're not just investing in a company, but a industry that's growing and changing and growing from here.
Yeah, I mean, for the first time when I actually saw that ResTech landscape, the first one, it looks like, I have the names of the clients now. I can actually go as a salesperson.
It's also a cheat sheet for salespeople. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, again, to understand a little better, you mentioned about the opportunities which are coming now. Conversations around jobs are over. We know that, it's nothing happening. But when I see the overall, paradigm shift which is happening around ResTech, we now know which companies are doing what. And there's always a synergy between the two companies. If I really wanted to find out who's doing eye tracking or somebody who's doing, say qualitative interviews, and they're sourcing the respondents through the panel. So what other opportunities that you did mention about few things in the Data Guru podcast, which is now evolving and people are using those AI technologies. What other opportunities you seeing that ResTech will bring on the board, and the ResTech landscape would say probably in 3 months or 4 months will change again?
Well, we try to evolve that landscape at least once a year. But on a quarterly basis, we find new companies that should be listed. And so we make additions. But in a cadence of about once a year, we go through an evolution of the landscape and maybe add several companies or change some of the layout. What I often notice is that sometimes a company may be listed, say, in eye tracking. But what I find over time is that they also then start offering innovation in, quality, where it's not just their eye tracking research, but they can also start providing the ability to validate users. So a lot of the value of the ResTech landscape is to understand where there's the crossover and what different types of opportunities list that are possible between regions, between fields, between companies. And it also allows, as I said before, it's kind of a cheat sheet for salespeople, but it allows a company to understand who their competitors are, but who also their potential customers could be as well, and what types of products and services they're looking for. But in terms of where innovation is going, we're talking about AI. There are really kind of 3 areas where AI is really impacting a lot of companies right now. The one that may not be as sexy, but is really important, is in the normal operations of the business. Everything from sales enablement to customer support, not your product. It's not the thing you sell, but it's the efficiency and capabilities of your internal organization. That's a real de facto standard, and a lot of companies don't do that first. They want to build the sexy product first. Then we see a lot of companies adding AI to their existing product. You might see this in transcription and coding, et cetera, where you have a product, you can plug in APIs from any of your favorite LLMs and create AI capabilities on top of it, whether it's analysis, et cetera, kind of report writing, that kind of thing, adding it to your existing product. And then there's the net new product build. And that's really for 2 different types of companies. You have existing companies like Cent, as an example, who may build a net new product foundationally on AI as its core concept, or a net new business. And that's where we'll see a lot of new companies. We had to build a new segment or section of the ResTech, which is all about AI chatbots. And there's going to be more and more companies that are founded on the concept that they're an AI-first research entity. And those are the companies that are going to be the most disruptive and most fast growing because they are AI first, AI only. It's all they know. And they have no legacy history to rely on or slow them down in terms of their development.
That's interesting. So do you think the investors and stakeholders would look at the category 2 of the companies?
Absolutely. Most venture capitalists and investors are going to be looking at which of these AI concepts have the opportunity to create the most value.
Within the research and technology or any industry for
Across the board. I mean, I think the past 24, 36 months, we've seen a lot of money go into AI firms. Some are more foundational, building the actual LLMs themselves. There's been a lot of money coming into AI first firms that they often joke it's an AI wrapper around some other LLM. But there's going to be a lot of innovation, a lot of investment in that space. It's calmed down a little bit over the past 6 months, but I think it's going to continue to be at a high level of investment. However, you have to be careful, though. You can't just add .ai to your URL and expect that to change the culture of your business.
Yeah, I've seen a number of companies there. But that's a very good point you actually raised. So when we say AI first, my understanding, I'm not a techie guy, but there's a lot of LLMs in terms of you need to have large language models in the play, and for that you need tons of database. So that AI first, how would people ensure that if they're starting up something new, they should be AI first, not research and technology first?
Well, you can use AI with research. You can be a research entity first that's using AI as your fundamental technology. I think the challenge that everyone has is, it seems to me, and I could be very wrong, but it seems to me that all of the foundational LLMs, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok, Llama, all of them are going to be raising their capabilities at relatively the same pace. I don't expect one of them to jump up and maintain a level much higher than everyone else over even 6 months, because they're racing to the same capabilities, which means that they're all equally capable. So your competitive advantage is not necessarily which of these you choose. And I expect a lot of companies will actually use multiple LLMs as their foundation. I don't expect a lot of companies to build a net new foundational model because it's too expensive. They can't catch up. Where their competitive advantage comes in is what data they can use as context for the LLM to use, what proprietary information. Because let's say you're asking an LLM a survey question. You may or may not get a good answer based upon the training data that the LLM has. But as a customer, you may have years of customer data around how they engage with your products that LLM has no access to previously. And it's that connection point of proprietary information with a strong LLM, with a research outcome, which is important and powerful. That's where you have a competitive advantage down the road. And so there are some companies that have a huge amount of customer or research information that have a competitive advantage in this new AI world, but also new companies that are coming to the table that are only trying to solve research questions via a LLM process. And those are the companies that are going to be able to figure out quickly, where is the value add? What is the competitive difference that they're bringing to the table?
And that is something I actually wanted to ask. What is that benefit that people can actually seek through? And now I think we got an answer. It has been offering lots of benefits when it comes to the way we have seen how we characterized insights and how we have actually gone into the automating process. What is that significant innovation within AI? You gave one example, and I think I'm inspired to that. How can companies ensure that they're leveraging that efficiently, even if I have the database? So, for example, I spoke to this D2C brand. They got tons of database, and they don't do enough questionnaire or probably consumer feedbacks. They just know that they've been getting customer feedback with every single product that they sell. What is, or probably if you can take this as an example and describe what benefits that they can actually get from that entire database using the ResTech word or.
Well, before LLMs were available the way they are now, via API and via UI, there was a process of how to manage your database, your big data, your data lakes. There's a lot of structured, unstructured data questions, as a lot of entities were trying to resolve this very question. I have data here, I have data here. How do I extract value from that information? The simple reality now is it can be really easy. All you need to do is give the data to the LLM and let it use it as a context window, as a RAG, as it were, so that essentially it can use that data as context information to inform how it's going to respond to your queries. And so what companies can do is essentially plug those two things together. You no longer have to worry about the structure of the data because the LLM will resolve that itself. And so it allows for any person in the organization to ask questions of your customers using all the information you've ever collected, which is a very powerful tool because the LLM gives you access to all that historical information without trying to create a survey necessarily, without having to find where the research or the questions are. It allows every user within that brand, as it were, to ask their questions of their customers in a very simple chat window.
Yeah, I think this definitely makes sense. When we have the data sets right in front of us, we can actually analyze what are the trends coming up, and accordingly we can design the question. This makes sense. And when it comes to considering that we are pretty much disrupted the entire industry as a whole, a lot of things are happening. I see people are coming up with scripting analysis, and
Sure.
with advent of AI. So as a leader in such a dynamic and a fast-paced industry, what principles are guiding you in steering Cint and then contributing to the ResTech?
Well, I think principle number one is to do a lot of listening, to not assume that we have all the answers, and not assume that any of the experiments that our customers are running are good or bad. And because none of us are sure exactly how generative AI is going to impact every step of the research value chain. We expect it to be disrupted. We expect things to change.
Yeah.
We're unsure of the timeline, and we're unsure of the method. But we do expect something to happen. And so as a leader, it's about leaning into the question and leading into our customers' experimentation so that we can help them guide through, say, a new research concept. Let's say a customer wants to use synthetic data. What if they want to use synthetic sample? What if they want to use different types of automated scripting, automated analysis? I think right now, most of our customers don't believe that AI is to a point where they can replicate their solid research process with a fully AI generative process. But I think they're all of them running experiments and trying to understand what the balance is going to be long term. And my feeling is that what AI will do for the research industry, expand the number of questions that can answer. So if you think over the past 10 years, almost all questions within research are asked and answered online or via Katie. And let's say it's about this size, right? Via LLMs connected to your proprietary data, the number of questions answers expands dramatically.
Yeah.
Right? And then the question is, well, how much of that is still run via online or Katie or offline different data collection, and how much is going to be run via an LLM process? What that balance is, we don't know. But my expectation is that the number of questions and insights generated is going to dramatically increase and very quickly over the next few years.
A lot of things are happening again. You just mentioned those principles, and I think that's great to know that how we can actually see things, or before even we see things, how much we are actually listening to incorporate those as our learning. It's like, we are ourselves an AI model, and we need to get a lot of LLMs to us before we start analyzing it and work on it. What is your advice for those aspiring entrepreneurs which are just making their first move into this industry? And I've been seeing a lot, many have come actually. And I think that's one great advice that you said. The investors are probably the potential stakeholders who will be looking at AI first driven companies. What other things that you think, as an advice you can give to these aspiring entrepreneurs?
Well, I have a lot of advice for entrepreneurs across the board, whether it's called AI or not. Particularly within the market research space, what an entrepreneur brings to the table is a new view. Oftentimes, researchers will look down on a new process, a new technique, a new technology, because it's not tried and true. It's not research-backed yet. But that's also valuable when an entrepreneur or a newcomer comes in with brand new ideas of how we can deliver something in a brand new way. And so the challenge for any entrepreneur is to bring brand new ideas and then understand what the value is to the existing industry, to the customers themselves. How do you bridge that? And how do you not lose sight of that kind of new concept and that newness to the industry, while at the same time providing value to existing customers? But entrepreneurship is a challenging process. It's fraught with danger.
Yes, I completely agree. And the fact is that the thing that you just mentioned, ResTech landscape would definitely help you out because, it has all the data there. It has all the names of the companies. You can probably go and study those companies and understand what is that gap area that you can fill and bring value to the board, which in itself is pretty new.
That's a great point, that the ResTech landscape can provide a roadmap to whether it's an entrepreneur. It could be someone who is interested in finding a job or role in the space, which companies might be interesting.
Yeah.
Part of what we show in the landscape is which companies have been acquired, and so you can see the movement. The more acquisitions means the more interesting a particular sector might be.
Yeah.
So the ResTech landscape is meant to be a roadmap for people to understand the industry and which companies are active in the space.
I think it's a complete encyclopedia. It's just that you have the names there. You probably have to dig a little bit of yourself to find out what is there. Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great initiative, first of all. And thank you so much, Patrick. I mean, this is such an inspiring and, it has a lot of insights and, your expertise is definitely always valuable. I mean, I've been hearing you quite often. And by the way, I actually saw a couple of your own videos with your daughter. So that was like,
oh, no.
So it's like, thank you so much for coming again and giving me time to, showcase what I am kind of doing with the word. I really want to tell them, what brains like Patrick actually think and what is Patrick looking from the word itself and how you can come and, showcase your own capability to Sint or, the ResTech itself.
Well, I have so much respect for you, especially over the past few years. And this is a wonderful opportunity for me to share the story. But also, I'm excited to see this grow as a platform for you as you're bringing these insights and ideas to the world, as it were, right? So I've got a huge amount of respect, and I can't wait to see where this goes for you.
Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Patrick. It has been an inspiring conversation. And I'm sure our listeners have gained a lot of values from the thought on ResTech, market research, and above all, what a stakeholder actually wants. And for me, was leadership. To our listeners, thank you again for tuning in to this episode of the Collaborative Canvas. And if you enjoyed today's discussion and want to hear more such conversation from the industry leader, then please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. You will get notified about every single episodes which are packed with insights, strategies, and stories to inspire your journey. And hey, if the episode resonated with you, then I would always say that just take a moment to leave a review and share it with your network. Your support helps us reach more listeners, continue bringing more impactful content your way. Until next time, stay curious, stay innovative, and keep collaborating. Thank you.